You're listening to Sacks in the Basement, a production of the Broadcast Basement Limited, where every show is 30 minutes of good and comes from a basement bar on the south side of Chicago. Pull up a stool, pour a cold one, and join us right now for Sacks in the Basement. Heard everywhere podcasts can be found, and always at sacksinthebasement.com. But it is cool to be out here today at Cork and Kerry at the park. We're at 33rd and Princeton. We're going to be here for the next couple hours, live on the Podbean app, and people should be able to listen if they can't hear us on the speakers here in the bar. There's all kinds of things set up where people are going to be able to, hit buttons, and you do the QR code thing. I don't know how any of this stuff works, but you do it. It takes you to it on your phone. They can put it in their headphones while they're sitting here. Good crowd starting to come in here for a White Sox game, and it's going to be a beautiful day today.
It's gorgeous outside.
Absolutely gorgeous day today. What were your impressions on opening day? I know it's been 2 days, but I'm curious what your impressions were, because I was actually there, and I have the good, the bad, and the ugly of opening day. There was a lot of good.
There
There were a few things I didn't like, and it had nothing to do with the product on the field. It had to do with what was going on in and around the ballpark. So we're going to get into that, because the Sox have some adjustments to make.
Well, okay. So from the pure standpoint of what was on the field, because that's where I can come in. I wasn't at the game, but just watching it, on the field, it's exactly what you wanted out of Lance Lynn. First of all, right?
Right.
You wanted him to come in. You wanted him to throw a lot of innings, save a beleaguered bullpen if they happen to be beleaguered in the moment, and dominate a team like the Royals that really deserve to be dominated at every turn, because that's just who they are and what they're there for. But the other things, that I liked the balance in the lineup. Just everything went right as far as an opening day, an opening home game that you want to see from the standpoint of what are you looking for as a fan, what are they giving you to cheer for, and I was particularly appreciative of the fact that Lynn went 9, so we didn't have to worry about what Tony La Russa was going to do to poor Matt Foster, who at this point I think needs counseling and possibly a good stiff drink before he even warms up in the pound.
Well, here's the thing. First of all, it was emotional for me being in the ballpark.
It had to be, right?
It was emotional. It was after sitting inside. Everybody had different pandemics depending on where you lived. Some people on the north side of Chicago haven't left their houses yet, depending on what the lockdowns are like. I'm in Evergreen Park. It's been wide open for the last 6 months.
So your pandemic mileage varied differently from mine where I live. So.
Right. Everybody's has been very different, but there was always this thing that it never felt normal. And even with the restrictions and everything else, from the anthem, from seeing the field for the first time, to the anthem, to just to them taking the field, and the biggest moment to me was not only the Moncada home run. I'm standing next to my son. He hits the home run, 2-run bomb. You're excited. When your main Mercedes hit that thing a country mile, and it sailed over us because we were over in left field. First, as it came off the bat, I almost killed my son. I picked him up and shook him like a rag doll.
He's coming!
He's a 13-year-old hockey player, and I just used him like a prop. I was like, oh my God, look at this ball! Like the thing was just flying at us. I was just so excited. And so that was cool. But then as the celebrating was happening, everybody was cheering. I honestly teared up. Like I didn't cry, like it didn't run down my face.
It's okay if you did.
But I teared up. I honestly did. I got emotional. It was like we were back. Like I was at the ballpark.
Right.
That was amazing. And like people were cheering. It was 8,000 fans or 9,000 fans, whatever's in there. And it sounded like 35,000 at that moment. Like the stadium shook with 8,000 people. I never thought that was possible. I've been to plenty of games with 8,000 people. That was the loudest 8,000 people I ever heard in my entire life.
Well, it was nice of Roger Bossert to put in the earthquake thing in the stadium, so it does actually shake with 8,000 people now.
Well, they also have the weird thing that they were doing where they were pumping in some crowd noise. But I noticed later on in the game, even when something good was happening, the crowd noise wasn't. It wasn't. They didn't increase it. Like that's the thing. So while there was like this steady, like static that was running through the ballpark.
So it was just ambient white noise in the background?
Well, not really that, but it was like just like this. It was like what you hear in the background while we're doing the show.
Right.
It was just something like that.
Listening are concerned this could be fake too.
Right, exactly. This could be completely fake. We could be literally in our basement right now. All right, so we're Cork and Kerry at the park, 33rd and Princeton. We're going to bring in Matt Sawatsky here in just one moment here from Pinwheels and Ivy, but I do want to get to a couple of things that stuck out to me about the ball game. Because, first of all, I loved it. They won. They were awesome. everything about it was wonderful for me, the product on the field, everything else like that. White Sox have a few things they need to work on. First off, they cut off the beer an inning early. For the first time ever, and they tried to use the rain delay as an excuse. I've been to plenty of rain-delayed games. I think they ran out of beer because they were also closing food. They were closing food in the outfield in the 7th inning. They closed the Beggar's Pizza in the 7th inning. They were out of hot dogs out in the direct part in the outfield. They were out of all food at the beginning of the 7th inning, underneath the fan deck on the concourse. And you're separated by section. You're only allowed to shop in your section. And they were not prepared for, obviously the outfield outate the infield. I don't know what happened. They were out of food in the 7th inning. That's a problem.
It's like going to a buffet. You don't follow the fat guy in the buffet line, so you don't follow me. You don't follow the fat guy in the buffet line. You got to look around your section. Maybe what they need to do in the ticketing is not only show you where the pods are, but show you the average weight of who's sitting in the pods around you. So you got to put it in. But I guess the problem there is it's going to be like the airlines where, the airlines are going to sit there and say, well, we're weighing your bags, we're weighing you to try and figure out how much fuel to put in. So if you're going to undersell
they should have been prepared. They didn't have enough. They didn't have enough beer. They didn't have enough food. They weren't ready for it. They let down their customer base, not with the product on the field, but with what was going on around the field, and that's something they definitely have to look at. My other complaint we're going to get to with our guest who's going to come in here. I'm going to wave to him over here. Matt Sawaski is going to join us from Pinwheels and Ivy Pod. This is when I would play music normally, but it's not working. So it's just straight 2 hours.
Do you want me to sing?
No, we're going to have points, though, where you hum and I go get a beer because I'm thirsty.
Great.
I'm going to turn on his mic right now as he sits down. And this is his first time ever on the show. So we're going to have to make sure that the headphones are working well for him as he leans in here. Matt Sawaski from Pinwheels and Ivy. How are you, Matt?
I'm good, fellas. I'm glad you had headphones that fit my big Polish head.
They're adjustable. We spare no expense here at Sox of the Basement.
Wait, you're worried about the size of your head. Have you seen Chris's?
I appreciate that. No, thanks for having me. This is awesome. There's a ton of people. They opened this door at 11. It was
there were people waiting outside to get in here.
It was awesome.
It was kind of cool. Ed had the unfortunate job as I was setting up of opening the door and telling people they couldn't come in yet.
Yeah, well, Matt was playing bouncer too.
Yeah, Matt was playing bouncer too. So anyway, I want to talk a little bit about your impressions of the team so far. Before we get to that, I want your opinion on this. And I don't know if you heard it over there where you were sitting. I was talking about the good, and then there was a bad thing. They ran out of beer, it seemed like, or they wouldn't serve it after the 6th inning in opening day, and they were closing down some of the food too. In center field, they were shutting the food down. They didn't have hot dogs. They weren't prepared for any kind of delay, which is kind of funny because we all knew it was going to rain for a week, and they weren't ready for it. But the other thing I want to ask you about is what you guys both think about this. So the White Sox get rained out on Saturday, and Ed and I have talked about this in the offseason. They get rained out on Saturday, and with this new rule with the 7-inning doubleheaders, we asked, will the Sox, for the price of a ticket, now give you 14 innings of baseball, or will you get cheated out of 2 innings and they'll do the split doubleheader? And guess what they did? Split doubleheader on May 14th.
Right.
So before you guys jump into it, I thought this was for the safety of people, and instead we're going to have 2 crowds come in on the same day, and we're going to keep the ball players in the ballpark longer. And so it's not about safety if you split doubleheader, it's about money. Am I right or wrong about that?
It's completely about money. I mean, you understood in pre-COVID times when they would do that, that's just kind of how they were going to do it, and it was about money then, but it's going to be about ticket sales and stuff now again as well. I suppose the spin will be that they're going to say, look, we're already limiting people in the ballpark. This is going to give more folks an opportunity to catch a game. It's not going to screw people out of the game who had tickets yesterday. They might not be the same crowd as when we put together the doubleheader, but by and large, it's you can't call it a safety issue anymore then if you're going to do that. But the 7-inning thing is also not the White Sox doing, so they're just going along with.
It's weird. But it was strange to me. What did you think, Matt, when you heard about that?
I'm with you guys. It's definitely all about the dollar, which we've all been White Sox fans our whole life, so none of us should be surprised about that. But you're making your staff vulnerable. Now your staff, instead of being exposed to 9,000 people, are exposed to 18,000 different people. There's a whole lot wrong with it. I understand it's the rule from MLB, but it doesn't make sense the way things are going now and everything. So yeah, it's all about the money as usual.
And what's weird is I saw the Brooks Boyer what we're going to be doing at the ballpark video that they put out. And during it showed that they had these spray guns where they're going to walk through the aisles and disinfect the seats. So what you're going to tell me is during a split doubleheader, somehow they're going to spray down every seat in the ballpark with their spray guns in between? Like, this seems like a daunting task that seems impossible. Why not just give people you know what, how about this? Let me buy the extra 5 innings. I bet you it would be cheaper for me. Like, I feel like I'm more getting ripped off by the fact that I'm only getting 7 innings and the beer closes at 5. This is a real concern for me. This is the second time I brought up beer closing early. This is a real issue for me. Beer should always go to the 7th inning. And now I feel like they'll be like, beer closes midway through the 4th or at the beginning of the 5th. And that's going to bother me as well. I mean, why would, like, the people that bought tickets for the Saturday game, they're going to be totally into, I'm going to my game. They bought it already. But when the marketplace opens for the other May 14th game, what will sales be like with people going, well, I could buy the other game and get 9 innings for the same amount of money? And that's what I'm wondering.
I wouldn't buy tickets for a 7-inning game.
Right, in advance you wouldn't do it, right?
No, I would not.
No.
So, I feel bad. I guess I don't feel bad, but it's a terrible thing where you bought a ticket for a 9-inning game, for the 9-inning experience, to go there, enjoy yourself, and okay, unlucky it rained, but here's 7 innings. That just, you're getting ripped off, in my opinion.
It's a weird rule, and
I have a solution, though.
What's your solution?
Who is the lowest paid member of the White Sox bullpen? Make sure he gets in the game, gives up the lead, just ties it so that you get full 9 innings in. And then, they can take it in the ninth. Just go ahead and act like, regular 9-inning walk-off. That I think works out for everybody, right?
So now, here's the thing. We give them a hard time about this, but what do we feel about the product on the field so far? I feel like people are overreacting just a little bit because we got, like last year, we pressed it. I'm sure you pressed it on Pinwheels and Ivy as well. The idea that in a 60-game season, the wins meant more. Your lineup needs to be in there every day. You need to have your best guys on the field all the time. And we had to get ourselves in that mindset. Are people having a hard time adjusting now back to it's 162 games, it's a long season, calm down? Do you think that, Matt?
100%. We actually talked about that exact thing. It's exactly. You went from every pitch counts, every inning counts. It's 60 games. It's under a magnifying glass. We're back to 162. Yes, there's mistakes being made, but just relax. Yes, at the end of the year, they could be 2 games back from Minnesota. If we would have won, 2 of those games in Anaheim that were there for the taking. But that's baseball. That's the normal 162. But yes, I totally agree with you. Everything is not under the magnifying glass like it was before.
And we talked with the All Angels podcast right before opening day out in Los Angeles, and they were basically saying, hey, look, if it was a long season, we were a playoff team. We got off to a slow start, but then we were on fire at the back half. We just couldn't catch up. They were a good team. They took it to the Astros right after they took it to us.
Yeah.
In a 162-game schedule, you also notice that, hey, maybe that team we played is a playoff team. We just happened to get them in the first week. And I don't think that – I think that was the other thing to me. You're on the road. You're on the West Coast. They're not normally that good on the West Coast. They came away 3-4. In a normal 162-game season, you'd be like, all right, especially if that happened in June. If it had been early, but you're expecting them to just jump out of the gate and kill everybody, and we're the best. And I just think we're going to see a very different season. We're going to see a team that's managed in a way where it's over 162, where every once in a while you're going to sit there and say, why did we do this? Well, we did this because this guy's getting tired, or I got to find out what else I have in my pen. I mean, the Matt Foster thing was a total just screw-up job by Tony La Russa the last game against Seattle. But on the other hand, he also kind of wants to see what Matt Foster's going to do out there. He waited a little too long, but I think that's what it was, and I don't think we saw that as much last season, and that's why people are getting upset.
Well, you're also going to have a thing, too, where you're saying, okay, well, we could have grabbed 2 of those games in Anaheim at the beginning of the season, but you can't tell me over the course of 162 you're not going to have 10 more series where you're going to sit there and go, we should have had that game, we should have had that game. There's going to be a Jose Paniagua game in there somewhere where Neil Koch should have started, to go back way back. Pull it back to something that people are still sore about. But you're right, though, about the Angels, too, that when they get off to a hot start, and they're pushing to get off to a hot start, and the Sox are pushing off to get to a hot start, and you're looking at the hype machine is really what you're looking at there, too. We came out of spring training expecting, Dylan Cease is going to start today. We expected him to basically sit there and go 7 innings, walk nobody, because he's turned it around, and instead we got there from Carlos Rodon, which is very cool. But there's going to be some things, and I think Tony is trying to figure out the bullpen still. I mean, Matt, what do you think? He doesn't have a feel for these guys yet, do you?
No, I don't, and again, with the start of the new year, some things that I like to remind people, because I'm sure we'll get to it, but I've been labeled as a Madrigal truther. I've been put into that box. But Nick Madrigal hasn't played a full MLB season. Luis Robert hasn't played a full MLB season. Tony La Russa hasn't managed in 150 years. So there's a lot of guys just still kind of getting their feet underneath them, getting going here with this stuff. And I think we're seeing some of that with the learning curve. And by no means am I starting the Madrigal apology tour, but I'm also saying that we're going to see some of these hiccups down the road. And to your point earlier, yes, in a 162-game season, there's going to be a 4-game series versus, I don't know, let's just call it like the Royals, where they play like absolute dog ass and they still get the win. And those are, so it does have a way of righting itself throughout the course of a season. But I just want to touch, the Angels are good.
They're a really good team.
The Angels are a very good team.
People acted like, well, this is a garbage team. We should roll over them in their own park. They're a good team.
They're way better than I thought they were going to be.
Yes, that middle of the lineup.
And if Shohei Ohtani becomes what he's supposed to be, they're an even better team. So people underestimating them in that first series, that was a mistake.
Yes, the Angels are very good. That kid Walsh they have, that's a very good rookie right there. The middle of their lineup is sick. I think they're like maybe 1-2 pitchers away from being like a team where you're like, okay, but they got this guy on their team. I think it's Mike Bass or Mike Fish or Mike something. He's pretty good at baseball.
Sam.
Tim. It's his cousin.
What's with that team and guys named after fish? It's just such a weird thing.
California. I don't know.
We're sitting at the Cork and Kerry at the park. Come on out and join us. We're having an awful lot of fun here. We're going to be here until game time. It's a 1:10 start. We're going to go through the lineup here in a moment. Sox in the basement. We're at 33rd and Princeton. Show up, have a beer. They got great food here. They have the gourmet hamburgers. They've got an incredible group of burgers that they put together. They got one of them they put pulled pork on top of, which is just, it's a feast.
It's fantastic.
And I'm going to tell you something. The best thing I did on opening day was I came over here with my son and I ate. Because when I got into the ballpark, I didn't know what was going to be available to me with everything spread out the way that it is, because you end up in one section and it's whatever is in that section. That's what you get. You're in the food that's available in that section, the beer that's available in that section. That's it. Like, I couldn't get over to the craft cave and have craft beer. Like, all I had was Modelo's. That was all I could get to in my section. So if you have a taste for something before the game, come on out here to Cork and Kerry at the park. We got the free Sox in the Basement trucker hat for everybody that shows up while supplies last. And as you can see by the giant box in front of me, there are supplies. So we have plenty of them to give away. You know, I get muscle aches all the time. I've gone from being able to do whatever I want to and not feeling any pain to basically getting pain for any kind of physical activity. Good news, there's a local family-owned Southside business that provides a CBD topical that will not break the bank. Creaky Bone Balm offers concentrated relief for creaky bones. It is an effective hemp-based CBD in a rejuvenating balm. And guess what? It's made in small batches, always free of preservatives, and all natural ingredients. It's great for muscle aches, tension, inflammation, joint pain. You can even use it for skin ailments like burns and dry, cracked skin. Right now, go to creakybone.com and use the promo code BASEMENT. Get 20% off your order. Whether it's physical activity or off-season stress, Creaky Bone's gonna help you out. Use that promo code BASEMENT, 20% off your order right now at creakybone.com. I will tell you something, and it resonated with me on opening day, and it also resonated with me coming out of this pandemic, that, first of all, I've got 2 teenagers. I got a 15-year-old girl and a 13-year-old son, and then I've got a little 5-year-old that never stops moving and thinks he's 40, okay? But the 2 older kids, this whole thing over the last year has just affected them in such a way. And they've done pretty good with it, and we've had to do a lot of things where, like, you know what, I'm not, like, we've made personal decisions at times, like, they got to be around their friends. Like, they got to do this. We were fortunate because we live in Evergreen Park, the schools were open. I know it hasn't been that way for everybody else, but my kids were in school since the beginning of September. That was a big difference, and even with that, like the lack of sports or the lack of things they're doing, that still affected them. The fact that they couldn't have like their normal dances, or they couldn't have like their events, or it's like we're doing my daughter's softball team. My daughter went out for the Mother Macaulay softball team. She was going to make it. Unfortunately, because of the restrictions that are out, they shortened the benches and have no freshman team. So here's a girl that was basically told, like, you'd have made it. But those are the things that affect, because to her, she's like, wait a minute, I did everything right. Because of this thing, I can't play.
And I think people listening need to understand that's a very, very hard team to make.
Right, that's a tough
one. The Macaulay softball team.
She can play.
Is a very hard team.
She's got the 11 and under state championship ring in her room. She was on a state championship team. So she batted fifth in that lineup. Better player than her father ever was, that's for sure. But here's a kid with a lot of talent.
Yeah.
Who's going to miss the season now. It's not because of talent. It's because of lack of room.
Right.
Because they can only have so many people on the bench. Because they can only have, and it's a hard team. They even considered putting her on with the older kids. But it was like we'd have to kick a kid off that would have made the team. And these choices these coaches have to make, what these kids have to go through. But my point is, with baseball, my dad always said that he learned more about what was going on in my life as a teenager at a ball game than he ever learned anywhere else. That he could get me out there and we would sit in left field and we were like second row. Our seats aren't even there anymore because when they built the bullpen bar, those were taken away. But we were in the second row out there, and in the early 90s when I was a teenager, and he's like, all I had to do is, buy you a couple of Cokes, get you a couple of hot dogs, fifth inning, get you the nachos, and you would just sit there and tell me everything that was going on with you. And so I bring my son out to opening day, and this kid has gone into like a shell. And I got him out there, and he just nonstop motor mouth. Like the world was normal all of a sudden, And he just boom, bada boom, bada boom, and this is what's going on with his friends, and this is what's bothering him, and this is what's this. And then like the excitement of the Mercedes home run, he's like hugging me, and it was that's the thing that's missing. And I was like, I talked about it earlier on in the live broadcast. I got emotional. Part of it was being in the ballpark. Part of it was the fact the kid was normal again. It was like 3 hours of normalcy. And that's why it's important that people are back inside the ballpark, I think.
I love every aspect of that story. That's awesome.
It's fantastic. That is exactly what we're looking at. Like you said, it's an oasis. It's away from everything that's going on in the outside world. And on a macro level, you're worried about all the pandemic and all the other stuff that happens in the universe. But it's the micro level stuff that people, I think, are really going to be appreciative of. And that's the thing that's going to last for this season, probably even as much as whatever happens on the field. Is it's going to be that feeling of some of my favorite games were going in 2021 because it was such a huge relief and a release from everything that had happened the year before.
And you had someone catch a ball and give it to you and your son.
You saw that on Twitter, yeah. So then there's these guys that are up there, and they're yelling to Luis Robert every time, and he's throwing the ball. But they were dishing them out to the kids.
That's awesome.
They got their first one, and I don't blame them. They're like, Luis Robert threw me a ball. And then it was like I could hear them up there, and they were like, we're getting this kid next. Like I knew that if they got another one, they were giving it to him. I kept telling him to walk down there, But he's like, he's like 13. He's 13 for crying out. He's 13. All right. So they get the ball right away. They're like, you want it? And they tossed him the ball. And he like lights up, and he's like all excited. He's got the ball, and then he just doesn't let the thing go for the rest of the day. And I think he went to sleep with it. But that was the thing.
That's what you do when you're a kid. You get a ball in a game.
Yeah, but that was the thing. Like it got him. That was the normalcy about it. It was a conversation with people. It was like during a big play, the guy across the aisle hits high fives with him. Like he started to feel normal again, and that was the fact that he was finally out with his dad and he's away from the rest of the family, and I think a ball game is like the best place to talk with my kids. I thought my dad was full of crap when he told me that story, but he explains that the reason he bought season tickets when he did, because he was just a police officer, you don't get rich doing that, all right? He's a Chicago cop, but he bought a partial season plan because he felt like he'd get to talk to my sister and talk to me. We would talk to him. He only bought 2 seats. He wasn't bringing all 4. Then it's the family, and everybody's like, still acting like the family unit, right? Get a kid alone, and that was what he wanted to do. And then and he's like, I knew everything you were doing. Stuff you wouldn't tell him. You sat there, you couldn't wait to give it up. You'd sit there with your scorecard, you fill everything out, you tell me everything. And I got to see that on opening day. And that was a big break for me after a year of this stuff. That was great.
Have we ruled out the idea that your dad was putting something in those Cokes and in those nachos and stuff just to get your mouth moving, a little truth serum or something?
I don't remember any booze in there.
No,
when I got older, there was
booze, like sodium pentothal or whatever they use. He's a cop. He knows how to.
The next best thing is when you get older and then you get to drink with Dad at the ballpark. That's the best. Oh, yes. And then he kills you.
But see, that's the thing though. It's much more than just a game.
Right.
Baseball is so much more than just a game, and I guess to bring everything full circle, it's so important for people to be back in the stands. Luis Roberts never played in front of his home fans before. Nick Madrigal's never played in front of his home fans
I kept
before.
thinking about how that had to feel for them.
That's wild.
How did it feel? I mean, and for Abreu to get the trophy, the MVP, and the crowd chanting MVP, like that, like he didn't get to celebrate that, and he got to celebrate that with his fan base, and they were pumped. Like that place,
Do you think Jose
I had no
pretending they were
voice on
chanting for him?
What'd you say?
I said, do you think Jose was pretending they were chanting for him in Anaheim? Yeah, sure, it was for Fishboy or whatever his name is, but yeah, it's got to be great for these guys, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you, I felt like Friday I didn't have a voice, and part of it was the rain, part of it was the fact that I felt like I needed to make up for the empty seats around me, because I wanted to be loud for them. I wanted them to know that we're with them, because I also worry with this team when they're cut off with their fan base. I mean, we've seen the organization get aggravated sometimes with White Sox Twitter and White Sox podcasts and everything like that. Like, that also could be rolling into the clubhouse. Like, our own fans are mean to us.
Yeah.
We're not.
No.
We're with you.
100%.
We love you. I've said a million times on this show, I'm a White Sox fan. I might not be a front office fan all the time, but I'm a White Sox fan. And that's who I root for. I don't root for the front office. Even though they've been in there for like 20, 30, 40 years, depending on which person you look at in there, I root for the White Sox. That's who I'm there for.
We're like your parents. We love you unconditionally. It's just sometimes we're disappointed.
Right.
We're not mad.
Not mad.
Except for Nick Swisher. I never loved him.
No.
I've never loved Nick Swisher.
No.
He was adopted.
No.
Okay.
Well, yeah. Nick Swisher. Even the thing with Toby Hall's pants.
He was like the kid that got switched at birth in the delivery room. And you look at him, you're like, you don't look like me. Something's wrong here.
But, I mean, and you even saw, we talked about it earlier, when Yerman hit his bomb, the crowd went nuts. He's looking at the crowd, pointing, smiling. Like,
They needed that.
These guys need to know, like, again, Luis Robert, I know there's people out, Nick Madrigal is the weirdest baseball player in the world because people either love him or hate him, but, like,
I don't know why people hate him.
I've been trying to figure this out for over a year. I have nothing.
He's a rookie. He makes dumb mistakes. Aaron Rowan made a terrible base running error in the World Series, and people loved him. He almost cost them the entire game at one point.
In the World Series.
In the World Series. And it was brutal. He used to make Madrigal errors. Before they were Madrigal base running mistakes, they were Rowan base running mistakes. All right? I mean, like, he's a human being. He's not something on a computer screen. I don't know why you hate him.
I feel like people are mad because, like, when Madrigal was picked, a lot of times I get, well, he was drafted 4th overall. Not his fault. And then also he keeps winning best defensive prospect, best baseball IQ guy, and people are getting fed all this stuff, so they believe it themselves, and then he contradicts it, and then people get mad at themselves for believing that.
That's the only thing that's aggravated me with him.
Right.
And I was told he had a great baseball IQ, and and he was like a defensive magician, and I've seen these things down there, and then I see these silly mistakes.
Right.
But I think he'll clean those up. If Tim Anderson can figure out how to be an above-average shortstop,
yes,
then Nick Madrigal can figure it out.
Madrigal's trying too hard too. He's aware of the hype. He's aware of what he's supposed to be to Sox fans. He's aware of what he's supposed to be to the front office, to the coaching staff, and he's trying to do everything, and he's trying to do more than everything, and that's when guys make mistakes. I don't care what your IQ is. In his mind, I guarantee you with some of these mistakes, he's sitting there going, this was stupid. I shouldn't have done this, but I'm already halfway there, so I guess we're rolling with it. I shouldn't have run, but
But Matt was nice enough to hang out with us. So tell us real quick about the Pinwheels and Ivy Pod. If anybody wants to check it out, you said it's live on Thursdays. So you're the only Sox fan,
yes,
and then you got 2 Cub fans.
And we talk a majority of White Sox, which I don't know how that math works out, but it does.
Because they're the best?
They get angry.
And they got more going on?
Yeah, and I mean, basically the way the show goes is we talk about what's hot, what's interesting, and 9 out of 10 times right now it's White Sox related. I mean, we can only talk about how the Cubs have a lower team batting average than National League pitchers, for so long. But we talk about a lot about Sox. Thursday night live, you can find us YouTube, Facebook, anything that streams live.
Anything that's do you use this Twitch thing?
Yeah, stream Twitch.
How does that work?
StreamYard.
See,
we don't do Twitch. We do StreamYard.
Okay, because there's so many things now.
Yes.
Like, I mean, I sit there and I read about something new every day, and I'm like, should we be on this?
Right.
Should we be on this? I'm like, I don't know.
We use StreamYard. So far, so good, because it's easy to do multiple platforms at once. We're very interactive. That's why when we stopped for that little break, I had a couple guys like Alex over here at the bar. I've never met him before.
Right.
But he's in our chat every week, and we've actually dubbed him our unofficial fact checker.
Yeah.
Because Alex is great being like, no, Zo, you're wrong. He actually hit this. And I appreciate it. And it's awesome. Alex is my guy over there. I love that guy.
What I loved about this whole thing was that we were like, okay, we're going to take a quick break. And we got up, and it was like there was no way we were getting to the other side of the bar.
No.
Like, everybody was just waiting, which is awesome. I want to say, first off, thank you every single person that came out today.
Absolutely.
Because it was so nice to have everybody here. This guy's clapping. His sons are like, Dad, knock it off. You're embarrassing me. But I mean, that was awesome that everybody showed up for this today, and they came out to hang out. There's still a really good crowd here, which is funny because the game's going to kick off soon, right?
Yeah.
10 minutes to 1 or something like that? Is that my correct, right? Yeah. We will put out an on-demand version of this later on in the day today. My name is Chris. His name is Ed Matsuowski from Pinwheels and Ivy. Thank you very much for listening to us. Sox in the Basement, found everywhere podcasts can be found, and always at soxinthebasement.com.
Sox in the basement. Sox in the basement. Sox in the basement.